Mercedes, wide chip, Ricky.
Zebra left, 75, Katie, Omaha. We're good.
The Sleeper Wire Pro-Am is back.
It's time to go eat, baby.
Let's eat.
This is our third season and the biggest one yet. We had 2 leagues last year and we're looking to double that this year. You, the listeners, get to play in a real fantasy football league with pros and shows from around the industry. Last year we had a great roster. We had Marcus Grant, Jake Seeley, Matt Harmon, Sleeperbot, the Fantasy Football Fellas, Eat Sleep Fantasy, and many more. And we're expanding that to include more pros and shows than ever.
Stop talking about it, man. Let's get this going right now.
Visit www.sleeperwire.com/pro-am for more details. Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Show. I am your host, Professor Chris. Today is Thursday, May 31st, and with me, I have our Sleeper Wire prophet, Hoos. What's going on, man?
What up, Chris? Good to be back on with you.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice again. And Dirty Jobs Mike, what is up?
What is happening, man? It's a pleasure to be on with both of you guys. Yet again, It's feeling like the season has got to be around the corner because I hear your 2 wonderful voices on the other end.
The trio is back.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and jump into our quick question, though, which is not, we call it a quick question. It's never a quick question, but it's a good one. We're going to kick it off with sleepers here. So, Hoos, Mike, give me 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, and 1 tight end sleeper with an ADP of the 10th round or later, and let's kick it off with running back. So, Mike, give me 1 running back sleeper.
Okay, so for starters, when you say ADP of 10th round or later, you left me with just garbage time. But in that garbage time, I was able to find this little shining light, Bilal Powell. I think him with McCown as a starting quarterback, I think, you'll see some quarterback controversy, but I don't think you'll see it till hopefully, mid to later on in the season. But I think Bilal Powell will actually become a pretty serviceable back over there. Matt Forte's gone. I like his opportunity. Especially when you're getting a running back that late.
Oh, you like him over Isaiah Crowell?
I actually do. I do like him over Isaiah Crowell.
Okay.
Crowell just always lets me down, and to me, Powell at least will put up some good games for you.
Yeah, maybe a 1.
Yeah, it might only be 1 or 2, but that's usually more than you get.
Yeah, it's never a game you started him at, though, either, is it?
That's also true.
Yeah. Hoos, what about your running back?
For running back, you guys already know. I love Peyton Barber. Charles Sims, they brought him back for another year. I believe he's going to be out there taking, some snaps away from Ronald Jones. And then, of course, you got Peyton Barber, who's, he's in the 3rd year of this offense. He's an undrafted guy. I like those guys that basically have a nice chip on their shoulder. Give me Peyton Barber. He's going to be practically splitting snaps. And Ronald Jones, he's a frail guy. He's not the biggest guy at all. Maybe just cracked 200 pounds. There's a possibility he goes down, and then now you're looking at Peyton Barber getting a lot of work and just Charles Sims just relieving him of touches. So give me Peyton Barber. Love him late. I can't believe he's still going. He's creeping up somewhat. He was going undrafted before, so I'm glad he's still, he's getting some love. But, we've got to get him a little bit more. We got to give him a little bit more.
12-team PPR, he's going at the 13.11. So into the 13th round. I'm assuming, Hoos, you would be willing to take him before that.
Because I have my beliefs in him. If I wait for him, I'm not going to get him. I'm not going to get him on any of my teams. So I just feel like I have to go get him at least by round 10 or so. Hey, I'll grab Ronald Jones if he's, not too high. But I don't have to get him late. And the way I'm seeing him right now, I don't think I'll have both guys from that backfield, but it's not a bad backfield to own, considering both those guys are going to split work. Charles Sims, they're saying he's going to get work, but not really buying it too much.
For the record, I was going to pick this guy, but I knew Hoos was going to pick this guy.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and went with Bilal Powell. But I like Peyton Barber a whole lot more than I like Bilal Powell. Just throwing that out there.
And I don't like either guy.
Yeah.
I would take Powell over him. My running back sleeper is Frank Gore. And,
nice.
Kenyon Drake was great when he played last year. He was electric. You loved having him on your team. He was an every week start. But, not just last season, but even in college, he's got an injury history. Frank Gore is a tank. He's still a tank. He's going to get some work anyway. And if Kenyon Drake goes down, Frank Gore is certainly going to be the guy. Now, I'm not saying you want to handcuff Kenyon Drake with Frank Gore, But as far as sleepers go, maybe if you got a little bit of a deeper league, Frank Gore could be very valuable at some point this season.
My wide receiver's Danny Amendola. Speaking of Miami, I really like him next year. I think he's going to be the guy to get right there. I know that there's already some pre-rumblings about Tannehill firing off. Look, guys, he's in the same division as the Patriots. Guess what? Revenge game. He's going to get 2 of those this year. I like the fact that Tannehill's coming back. There's a lot of things that are good to like about Miami, in my opinion. And I think last year might have been a fluke year for him. So that's my guy. I think he's actually going to be really good, and he's coming out late. And that's my favorite thing about anybody is when I can get that late round value.
Hoos, what about you? You're wide receiver.
His name's Keelan Cole. I don't know why people are just sleeping on Keelan Cole. The guy was a beast in the last 3 weeks of the season. 13 through 16, he had 81 fantasy points. The only people that topped that was DeAndre Hopkins. He was such a beast in the final stretch of those games. I don't really know how he's just what Moncrief is going to take from him. Or I know Marquise Lee. I like Marquise Lee, but I think Keelan Cole is going to be the guy. And he's incredible value right now. Give me Keelan Cole late every time. I think he's going to be a stud. He's going to surprise a lot of people. I think right now, I'm putting him in my top 36. And, I wouldn't be surprised if I bump him up a little bit more closer to the season. I definitely want to see more film.
And my wide receiver sleeper is going to be Paul Richardson. And, I just think he is the most talented Redskins wide receiver. Jamison Crowder is pretty good. I've never been a big believer in Josh Doctson. I know he can put up solid games, but he's just been too inconsistent and too, nagging injury type deal that he's been dealing with. Paul Richardson is the best wide receiver on that team. Alex Smith is still a decent quarterback. If I were to pick one of those guys, I would certainly take Paul Richardson over Crowder and Doctson. And let's move into tight end. Mike, kick us off here. Sleeper tight end.
Okay, my guy is Trey Burton. He's over there in Chicago now. I really liked him in Philadelphia. I don't think he got much of a good opportunity because he was behind the monster that is Zach Ertz. So I think now he's going to be the guy that's kind of on the forefront of that. And I think he'll become a reliable target for Mitchell Trubisky going down the road. I mean, it might not be right away, but I think you'll see that team have to depend on throwing that short dump pass and getting things out to Jordan Howard and things of that nature. So I actually really like Trey Burton this year.
Hoos, what about you?
Jameis Winston. It's Jameis Winston. Give me, his tight end, Cameron Brate. I don't understand how people are so low on him. I see a lot of guys I respect, putting out rankings, and they're have him in the teens, late teens, and I just don't see how you can ignore that this guy has so much built rapport. 2 years in a row, basically, he's been a tight end one. Even amid him missing games, even amid him being hurt, I don't see how you can just go away from him. They just signed him for a 5-year deal, I believe.
Yeah.
Could be a mistake. I think it was a 5-year deal. I mean, they love this guy. He's a great blocker. The coordinator loves blocking, loves the guy blocking his quarterback. That's another reason why I like Peyton Barber so much. It's kind of weird that I would have two bucks. I don't really like that offense too much. But, I mean, I like those guys in their positions. You can grab them late, and I think they're going to produce for you.
Yeah, I've got Cameron Brate now as my tight end 10 after the Hunter Henry news. So I like him a lot too. And I'm going to go with Benjamin Watson for my sleeper tight end. The dude just continues to produce tight end 1 numbers every year, no matter the quarterback, and he was amazing with Drew Brees a few years ago.
Yeah.
Now that he's back in New Orleans, chances are he's going to be amazing again. I think tight end 1, I think that's totally in reach for him.
Wow. That's bold, but I like it.
Is it, though? Is it?
Yeah. I mean, he really hasn't been on the radar that much, and really the utilization of the tight end has not been coming out of New Orleans after the past 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, to me, it's kind of a long shot.
Tight end 11 last year with Joe Flacco.
Right, yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. He's
not too bad.
But like I said, it just doesn't seem like New Orleans is hell-bent on getting to the tight end as much as they are kind of a ground and pound and hit them deep type of a game.
Right.
No, I was saying, but you're grabbing him so late. I mean, that's incredible value.
Oh, right. yeah. His ADP is, the 15th round? No, 17th round, so undrafted. Wow. Undrafted in one of the best offenses in the NFL.
Fair enough.
All right, let's get into the news. Starting off here, the Seattle Seahawks signed Brandon Marshall to a 1-year deal. Was this a better move than them signing Des Bryant, Hoos?
I mean, that's what people are saying. I don't know if this is a better move. I think I'd still rather have Des just because he's played. He played at least last year. I mean, Brandon Marshall, he's coming off of an injury. He's, I guess he's healthy. I mean, they signed him, but he was terrible on the Giants. And I mean, he's so far removed, I think, from being that number one wide receiver where he was on the Jets. And he really surprised us that year. And, we kind of bought into him possibly being good on the Giants. That didn't happen. So it's like him coming into the Seattle Seahawks, I can see him taking, maybe some red zone, like they don't have a tight end right now. So, I mean, they do have a tight end. Maybe they use him kind of in that capacity. They could use his big body. I'm not really buying into him. I want to see him on the field. I want to see his rapport with Russell Wilson. I love Doug Baldwin this year. This kind of drops my stock on Tyler Lockett, which I wasn't high on him anyway, really.
Yeah, I didn't have Tyler Lockett even in my top 50, so it wasn't even he wasn't even ranked for me. I only have my rankings through 50 right now. Lockett wasn't on there. Doesn't really do much for me. What about you, Mike?
Brandon Marshall the guy has just not been a presence for too long. Right. I don't feel like this is going to be any different. Maybe he'll get out on the field. His tendency and my thought is he won't be on the field very long, unfortunately. I just don't feel like his body can take the NFL anymore. And once you give him a good couple whacks, he's out of the game. And then he evaluated later and he's out for the season. So I don't think this is a big deal. I think Dez is a little bit more less injury prone, I guess would be the right way to say that. I think he would have been a dynamic fit for Seattle. I think that would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would have liked it as well. And we're actually going to cut it short here on Brandon Marshall because we're going to come back to this when we answer a couple Mailsack questions at the end of the show.
Excellent.
Moving on here, the Packers signed Mercedes Lewis. This is irrelevant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
I like Jimmy Graham. I like that expectation. Mercedes Lewis does nothing for me.
You got to take one. Are you taking Lewis or Graham?
Graham. All day.
No, you're not moving on.
Okay.
Stop. Because Mercedes Lewis never had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Neither did Jared Cook or Martellus Bennett. And,
right.
Yep. We'll hear it again. Great. Yeah. Let's move on here. NFL.com's Tom Pelissero reported that the Steelers do not have any expectations of seeing Le'Veon Bell before when he appeared last year on September 1st. They don't expect to see him until September.
That's terrible.
I mean, the guy doesn't play till December anyways, right? So
yeah, the season doesn't start at the beginning of September or anything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, taking the whole summer off. I know he's been going to do his individual work and all, but I think AB hit it on the nose. He says, "Hey, man, come in and get better. Like, get better with your team. You don't want to be this, this pariah that you're just doing your own thing, and you got to build with your team. They drafted guys. They drafted a guy, I believe, to replace him. Not to say you're going to replace Lev Bell, but I mean, he keeps going up this route. I wouldn't be surprised if they put him on the trading block."
You guys know the only 2 games that Le'Veon Bell finished in PPR scoring with less than 14 points were the first 2 games of the season last year because he was not in game day shape yet.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so if he's not doing the same thing this year, he's still obviously a top 4 pick, at which point you're splitting hairs. But, I said it last year. He's not used to playing those first few games. He didn't come in the offseason. He was okay, I guess. But he wasn't Le'Veon Bell. After 2 weeks, he picked it up. But holding out all summer certainly had an effect on him those first couple weeks, and it will again, or most likely could again.
I mean, there's got to be a price that they have to pay, though. They keep on twirling him around with the contract, like either pay the man or let the man move on. I mean, I kind of understand his situation. He's such a heavy part of that team that why don't they just pay the guy? Like, I don't understand why this is so complicated. Give the man the money, figure it out from there.
But they are paying the guy. He made the most money out of all running backs last year, $14.5 million last season. And that's coming up for this season. I'm sorry about that. Last season, I believe it was also the most out of all running. Yeah, 12.1. And the closest was Devonta Freeman at 8.2 million. So he's making $4 million more last year than he was the next closest running back. They franchise tagged him again, which is a 20% increase on their salary. I mean, the guy is getting paid.
I mean, but it's a year by year basis. I mean, yes, $14 million is a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
like that's a great contract.
Right. He wants a guarantee.
He wants a guarantee. Exactly. That's what he's looking for, is to say that you've got a place to play football for X amount of time. I think that's what he's going.
Yep, I like it.
The commitment.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he's committed to them, or at least he's trying to say he's committed to them, and they're not saying it back. But,
right.
I guess we'll see. Hopefully we'll see him in preseason, if not training camp. We want him to be ready on week 1, obviously. You're spending that high of a draft pick on him. You want him to be a stud right out the gate, but that might not happen right away if he sits out all summer again. Julio Jones was absent from OTAs, but he has said it is not related to his contract situation. Maybe for a guy who's just had nagging injuries his whole career, always dealing with some sort of foot injury, might just be taking it easy before the summer really starts rolling.
Yeah, this doesn't scare me too bad.
Apparently Roddy White, this is something Roddy White used to do, so, I mean, he probably just learned from his bro.
Yep, could be. Could be. Joe Flacco talked up Michael Crabtree after OTA last Thursday, saying that Crabtree is his guy. And nobody's surprised that Crabtree is the guy. But,
who's that compared to?
Willie Snead, the GOAT.
The precious Willie Snead, yeah, the precious.
Last 3 pieces of news that we have right here, just some injured players from last year who are close to coming back. Pat Shurmur said that Odell Beckham Jr. is close to being cleared from that ankle injury. Allen Robinson, with that knee injury, is participating in OTAs this summer, and Carson Wentz is already jogging, which is pretty amazing since that, ACL tear was, week 13?
Oh.
Something like that?
Yeah, and that was ugly.
Well, I think they need to check Carson Wentz for Westworld, whatever they use for that, because that guy just, bounces right back on the field after
they just
that.
fixed him up. Yeah.
Well, and he played the game with a broken leg. There was a time where he had more touchdowns with a broken leg than Tom Brady did without one. So
he just needs to be out there playing against the Giants, and then someone on the Giants just going to freeze all motor functions.
Right. and then who knows, he'll fumble. He'll just fumble and stand there.
If only. But yeah, good for him. Hopefully he's going to be back start of the season, but the fact that he's jogging already, not even June yet, that's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely excited.
Good news.
All right, let's go ahead and move into talking about some tiers. Now, tier-based drafting is something that has become increasingly popular over the last few years, and basically what it is, you're not just drafting based off a set of rankings. You have a group of guys that you have grouped into tiers. For instance, let's just talk about the tier 1 for running backs. It's usually a consensus: Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson. That's most people's tier 1. And what the tier-based drafting is not, you do not draft the number 1 guy, you draft just one of those guys in there, whoever falls to you. And then you move to the next tier and so on. And that was just a very, very brief summary of what tier-based drafting is. But we're going to talk about our tiers and the first 3 tiers at each position and maybe some of the differences that we have. So, kicking it off with running backs. Now, the ones that I just said, Gurley, Bell, Zeke, and DJ, that was my tier 1. What about you, Mike?
Same. Yeah. Nope. I don't. I think that right after that, you have a huge drop off in talent. But I feel like if you get one of these guys, you should expect a tier 1, a top 5 running back out of the situation.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. What about you, Hoos? Any differences there?
Yeah, you said Gurley, Bell, Elliott, Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I could see some people arguing Kamara, but I mean, someone's still going to take some touches from it, but, if you wanted to put him in that tier, I can see it. He should get plenty of touches the first 4 weeks. I mean, and who knows if the team is really upset with, if Sean Payton doesn't like Ingram, if maybe they just give him so much more work if he can handle it. I can see him being in that tier, but right now, safe-wise, just those 4.
Okay, yeah, I like it. That's generally the consensus. And those really are the 4 of the first 5 picks in almost every single mock draft that I've done so far anyway. Let's talk about tier 2. This one's going to be a little bit more interesting because we were talking about this a little bit before the show. And I feel like my tier 2 is going to be completely different than your guys's. My tier 2 only has two guys, Melvin Gordon and Alvin Kamara. And I'm looking at this from the perspective of PPR. Tier 2, just Gordon and Kamara for me.
Well, mine differs, but it's really not that much because mine has 4 people. And mine is those two, right? Add Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt. I think Leonard Fournette will be one of those guys like, yes, he's still going in the first round, but I feel like he might evolve into a tier 1 running back this year, just given his situation, man. That defense is so good that you're going to have to feed the rock to the guy a lot. The caveats that I have for him is his injury history. It does scare me. There is that factor in there. But at the same time, I feel like if he can stay healthy, if he can stay on the field, he will deliver in that tier 2 category.
What about you? Who's in your second tier?
My tier 2 is going to be a little bit more extended too, and it's only because I'm looking at what a guy can overall bring, not just what I've seen from him, but what bringing based off of what the amount of touches they're going to get. So I've got guys like Saquon Barkley in it. I've got Fournette. I've got Melvin Gordon in there, even though I'm a little worried about him. And then it rounds off with Hunt and Kamara. So I believe those guys really have a huge chance to get into that, really remain in that tier, but they can, really get into that tier 1, giving opportunities. Melvin Gordon, I'm a little lighter on, but I still put him there just based off of what we've seen. He's going to get plenty of touches. He's gonna get goal down. He's going to catch passes. He's great and he's safe in that area in that tier 2.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. So, tier 2 for me, you got Melvin Gordon, Mike, Gordon and Kamara for me, Gordon, Kamara, Hunt, and Fournette, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Hoos, you also added in who?
I added Barkley, I believe. I think
added Barkley.
Yeah.
So Dalvin Cook doesn't jump ahead of Barkley for you, huh, Hoos?
No, I mean, Dalvin Cook, I think a lot of people are just acting like Dalvin Cook isn't coming off of an injury. I still want to see him do all those things. Even I've heard, he's progressing well. I want to see it. I want to see it before I can just add him into that category. He's right there, starting at tier 3 for me, which is still great. For me, I'm usually getting those guys in the third tier the way I'm drafting, because usually I'm grabbing those higher echelon wide receivers first, just because I feel like they're more sustainable. Based on, running backs get banged up, they get injured. So usually I'm grabbing those wide receivers first, and I'm grabbing those guys in that tier 3, which I have, a nice list of them guys in tier 3 as well. It's great value. It's a good year for running backs, I think.
Well, why don't you keep going with your tier 3 then, since you already kind of started?
R3, I got Dalvin Cook in there. I've got Jordan Howard, Jerick McKinnon, and Devonta Freeman.
What about you, Mike? Your tier 3.
Okay, so I've got Dalvin Cook in there as well. I've also got Saquon Barkley, although I've got a little bit less expectations for that guy as everybody else seems to. I don't know. I just remember the Giants running back is always a murky situation.
I don't really have the highest expectations either, though. It's just I just think the potential. That's why I put him at that tier.
I gotcha. And then so for me, it also goes with Jordan Howard, Devonta Freeman, LaShawn McCoy, and Christian McCaffrey, and then it ends there. I like that batch. I think that batch has a lot of similar activity that they're going to be pulling down. Christian McCaffrey, to me, as the tail end of that, he might be the steal of the running back draft because I feel like he can finish a top 5 in a PPR.
I can't see it in the PPR. I mean, even in the PPR, I don't see him having a better year than he did last year. Not with C.J. Anderson there.
And that's why I think he'll have a better year, because I hate C.J. Anderson.
Oh, right. Yeah,
right.
Let me go ahead and get into mine. So a couple of guys that I have in my third tier are guys that you had in your second tier. And going back, my tier 2 was Melvin Gordon, Alvin Kamara. And I can't see drafting any of these 5 players ahead of them. And that's why they're in a completely different tier, because I won't take any of them above Gordon and Kamara. And that's Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, and Fournette. Those are guys that you guys had in your tier 2, or at least one of you did. You both had Hunt and Fournette. They're in my tier 3. Dalvin Cook, and also LaShawn McCoy. I've got McCaffrey, Freeman, and Howard down in tier 4 because I'm not going to take any of those 3 over any of the 5 I just named. So Barkley, Hunt, Fournette, Cook, and McCoy. So there's my third tier right there. But yeah, I can't justify taking any of those guys over Gordon or Kamara. Barkley and Hunt, yeah, I know that they're great, but they're not in tier 2 because there's no way.
Right.
I don't think there's any way they're the same level as Gordon and Kamara.
Yeah, I'm not arguing because I totally
things.
It makes sense to me. Like I agree, but I feel like the other guys will still deliver that value.
Right.
Yep. Well, let's move into wide receivers here. So wide receivers, tier 1, not necessarily the most exciting. I believe we're all going to have at least the same two, and that's Antonio Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. I only have 3 in there, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. is finishing out tier 1 for wide receivers. I didn't quite put Julio in there. I wanted to, but I didn't. So I've got Brown, Hopkins, and Beckham. Mike, what about you?
He did not earn the spot last year, Chris, so I'm right there with you. Odell Beckham Jr. is the line for me as well. Julio Jones he's almost tier 3, although I feel like he might have a career year this year.
Tier 3?
Right, because of just how bad he's been to own the past 2 years.
He's a lot for 1,400 yards.
7 last year.
Oh, he had 2 good games, man. Owning him, he had so many 0s and 3s, and it was miserable.
I had him all year. I kept him all year. People tried to trade for him. People were dogging him. Oh, I'll give you Julio for some garbage. I'm like, no, I'm keeping him. Like I'd rather just hold on to him as my flex at this point because I had to put him in my flex at some points. It was just like, all right, well, he's performing kind of like a flex, but I just kept him there all year. And I mean, when it came time to championship time, the guy was
fantastic if you don't draft him in the first round. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and he just didn't return that first round value.
He most likely will not be in the first round value this year. But I can't put him below some of the guys that I have in my second tier. But you've got the same 3 for your tier 1. What about you, Hoos? Brown, Hopkins, and Beckham for you as well?
No, I've got actually Julio over Beckham. I just think Beckham, he's another guy coming back from injury. A lot of people just like to act like guys aren't injured. Not to say that they don't come back and, they're fine, but I want to see it first. I want to see all of it first. And, I just think Julio, this was a down year. Julio, a lot of people had Julio the number 1 wide receiver last year, and now they added another piece that's helped take some attention off of him. I think there's a little bit more of a serious threat than Taylor Gabriel was. So I really like Julio. I think he belongs in this tier just because the guy's he had 1,600 receiving yards last year or something like that, something ridiculous.
1,444.
What is it?
1,444, 1,444.
Oh yeah, I went over a little bit over, but still, the guy's always up there with receiving yards. His touchdowns aren't there, but if he gets his touchdowns, then he's just as good as any one of these guys, and the receptions are there. So he's going to get the targets. He's going to get the yards.
I have a feeling that he is going to have his career year this year. I think that he might even finish as the 1. I just can't draft off of the feeling, knowing what I've seen the past 2 years out of the guy. Granted, yes, he's fantastic. He's Julio Jones. You throw him the ball, he catches it. It just doesn't seem like the target share has been there or anything. There wasn't a lot to like out of that offense last year. I can't endorse him as a 1, although I do love him this year.
You know what's crazy is that in 10-team and maybe even 12-team as well, there are going to be people who start their draft with Odell and Julio.
Right.
Which just seems ridiculous based on what they've done, and that's awesome. That's a fantastic way to start your draft. Maybe even Hopkins and Julio. But anyways, let's get out of tier 1 because we basically all agree who's put Julio up there into his first tier, but the other 3 were the same. Let's talk about tier 2. Now, mine's a little bit more expanded. Julio's in there, but Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, and A.J. Green. Any of those guys that you do not have in your second tier, Mike?
I think Mike Evans is going to get there this year. I think that same list, but with Mike Evans.
All right. What about you, Hoos?
I can't put Mike Evans there. My list is going to be Beckham, Michael Thomas, AJ, Keenan Allen, and Devontae Adams. Mike Evans, I just don't like the amount of mouths that are there. I don't know. I don't think James can give him, can make him a wide receiver 1 with so many pieces there. So I don't know. I'm still down on Evans. I think he's going to bounce back, but I still don't think it's going to be as great as everybody wants him to.
Well, where do you have him
think
ranked
Baldwin
right now?
Probably have him. Right now, I have him 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, so speaking of Mike Evans, I didn't quite get him into my second tier because I didn't want to try to justify taking him over Keenan Allen or putting them even together, or especially Julio, Thomas, Adams, and Green. But moving into tier 3, I have him at the beginning of my third tier, and he's in there with Tyreek Hill, Adam Thielen, and Larry Fitzgerald. So do you guys agree? Should any of those guys not be tier 3?
Larry Fitzgerald, I don't like that much. Replace him with Doug Baldwin for me, and then you got the same list.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who's about you?
And assuming Hilton's there, I'd replace Thielen with Hilton. But other than that, I don't know. I just haven't seen Cousins produce a number one wide receiver. I mean, I know he has Thielen and Diggs, but I'm just not going to, give him that he's going to be a number one again.
Well, let's move over to tight ends. So you have our tier 1, 2, and 3, 4 wide receivers. Tight ends, this one might be a little bit different, and I actually have 4 in my first tier. Obviously, you've got Gronk and Ertz. Kelsey, most people would include him as a tier 1 as well. But I put Greg Olsen in there as well, and he's someone who's going for Greg Olsen himself, where he's historically gone. You can get him super late, 5th or 6th round, for a guy that good who, remember, it was just a broken bone last year. It's not like he tore his ACL. He just had a broken bone, which heals. He's completely healthy now. The Panthers also got DJ Moore to take some of that other stress off. Devin Funchess is an okay wide receiver, but he's not a huge threat. Greg Olsen, I think, is going to have a huge year, and I think people are going to be a little bit down on him just because he was injured last year. I'm going to put him right up there in that first tier.
I agree 100% because when he's on the field, man, he gets the passes for that team, and add Kyle Rudolph because I really like Kyle Rudolph and Kirk Cousins. I think that'll be
tier 1.
I do, yeah. I really feel like he'll finish as a tier 1. I know it's crazy, but I feel the same exact way about him as you do about Greg Olsen. I mean, just look what he did over there in Washington, and now he's got this I don't know, he's a target monster. And I think Kirk Cousins really likes that tight end outlet.
So if someone were to say Rudolph or Ertz?
I would say Ertz.
Okay.
What
about you, Hoos?
Ertz is on the upper end of that
tier
echelon,
1,
but I like all 5 of those guys.
Well, so they're not in the same tier then.
See, and I disagree. I mean,
see, the tier one for me is going to be Gronk and Ertz. The other guys, there's too many changes that I still want to see play out, and I just feel like Gronk and Ertz, those are going to be the safest guys. I don't even have Kelsey in my tier 1, just because I want to see who Stan's favorite target is. I know he got Kelsey there, but I want to see it.
What's crazy to me is that Jimmy Graham is being drafted above Greg Olsen.
Above a lot of people. Yeah.
That seems insane to me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's definitely a head scratcher for me.
Yep. Let's go ahead and move into tier 2, though. So we talked about Kelsey and Olsen also being in Mike and I's first tier. I put Kyle Rudolph in my second tier, along with Evan Engram and Delaney Walker. Hunter Henry was there before his, super unfortunate May ACL tear. So my tier 2, Engram, Walker, and Rudolph.
See, and like I said, I feel like Rudolph is just going to produce like a monster. Hunter Henry, Evan Engram, and Kyle Rudolph were mine. Yeah, Hunter Henry's now off that list, obviously. But I like Delaney Walker.
For me, I'm gonna go with my I'm gonna put Kelsey in the second tier, along with Delaney Walker, and I guess I could see Rudolph being there just because Cousins does like the tight end. I mean, we saw what he did with Reed, but I'd have Greg Olsen, in there as well, just off of his rapport with the quarterback there, and a lot of people do write him off. I mean, he was a top 5 tight end every year. I can't put him in that tier 1, but I don't mind having him in that tier 2. He's still great.
Delaney Walker is kind of like the Frank Gore of tight ends.
Right.
Do you know how many seasons he's played?
I don't even think that as many as we think. What is it, like 7?
7? Who says? Mike, you said 12?
I did.
It is 12.
Wow.
Delaney Walker has played 12 seasons in the NFL. He's 33 years old. He played 7 seasons with the 49ers, and has played 5 seasons with the Titans so far.
That's
Hasn't
where I
really,
remembered him most was a 49er.
He was never really relevant until he went to Tennessee.
Right. But I mean, I just remember him. I just remember the uniform. I just remember him on the sideline almost. But I also remember him. I don't know. Like I said, I remember him as a 49er.
Yeah, and he was also playing behind Vernon Davis during his prime.
Right.
So, but Delaney Walker still very capable of putting up top 5 numbers. Probably going to be super solid again. But let's move into our tier 3 because here we might have some discrepancy. So, Mike, why don't you kick us off with your tier 3 for tight ends?
Okay, so my tier 3 has Jimmy Graham, and I actually and Trey Burton and Tyler Eifert, which he really barely made the list because I don't like Eifert. To me, you've got that first tier of those guys who will score you points almost every game. To me, that second tier is they're going to score you points, but they're going to have a little bit of a lower ceiling. And to me, then you've got a huge drop-off into tier 3. I do like Jimmy Graham's expectation this year. That's why he actually even made a list. But historically, I have to agree with you, Chris. He just doesn't get involved very much on that team. So, that being said, I think Eifert comes back. Hopefully he can stay on the field. And then I really like Trey Burton. And he's my favorite of the tier 3.
What about you, Hoos?
It's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of discrepancies. So I mean, for me, I guess I'm gonna put Jordan Reed here. A lot of people are just writing him off. He's healthy now. Apparently, he's looks just fine. It was reported he looks just fine. I'm gonna start with Jordan. Jordan Reed, I mean, can easily be a top 5 guy. People are forgetting about him. Evan Ingram, I put him there. Just I hope he doesn't steer me wrong, but I feel like he can bust, but I still put him in that category just based off of, his red zone utilization. And, I think he's still going to be a factor based off of that, that Pat Shurmur scheme. And, he did pretty well with Rudolph. Not to say that Rudolph wasn't great anyway. So I like Ingram there. Then Eifert as well. And then I'm rounding it off with Cameron Brate.
Yeah, and I kind of have a mix in between what you guys said. So tier 3 for me, Jimmy Graham, Cameron Brate, Jordan Reed, and Trey Burton. So a mix of what you guys said, but I also put Jack Doyle in there. Eric Ebron does not really scare me for taking really anything away from Jack Doyle. I think the Colts might be running a few more 2 tight end sets this year, but even if it's Jacoby Brissett, Doyle was still really good last season, and he's got that rapport with Brissett. He's got that rapport with Andrew Luck. I think Doyle is going to be just fine. I'm putting him in that same tier with Graham, Brate, Reed, and Burton.
Fair enough.
I can see it. I wouldn't argue it at all.
And Tyler Eifert for me just made the cut for tier 4. So almost tier 3 for me, but just right on the cusp there.
Yeah, like I said, he barely made it for me too. I mean, it was just right on the line there, and it's just his injury history. If that guy stays on the field, he actually does really well with that team. I mean,
yep. Sorry, I thought Hoos was going to go.
I see to be lower on Trey Burton. Apparently, you guys are really high on Trey Burton.
I like Trey Burton a lot this year. I really do.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm super high on Trey Burton. I've got him ranked as my number 13. Actually, I forgot to take Hunter Henry out of this list. So my number 12, so he barely made the tight end 1. But the guys that I have him above, I mean, Charles Clay, Benjamin Watson, Ricky Seals-Jones, David Njoku.
All right.
It's like, is tight end 12 really liking somebody?
Right,
yeah,
exactly. I mean, there's just such a huge drop off right there.
Yeah,
it's insane.
There's a big drop. Yeah, tight end. If you don't get one of those tier 1, tier 2 guys, you're most likely going to be streaming.
Right.
Yep. Well, let's get into some Mailsack questions because we haven't really talked about any questions from listeners much this offseason at all. So I made this post on SleeperBot earlier today, and we got some good ones in. Romaine Justin started off a pretty good discussion in the thread. Where will Jerick McKinnon finish at the end of the year, and what do you think his line is going to look like? And Hoos, I know you're a huge Jerick McKinnon fan. Where do you have him ranked?
Right now, I got Jerick McKinnon right at 11. So he is RB1 for me, especially in a PPR leagues standard as well. I think he's just going to pick up right where Carlos Hyde left off. What I'm hoping for, though, is if Jimmy Garoppolo passes to him, because that's one thing where I'm a little shy. It seems like Jimmy Garoppolo didn't use his running backs, and as far as dumping off anymore. It seems like when he took over, he didn't pass as much to the running back. Now, I know it's still the offense is still the offense, but that's not his first or second. You know, I mean, not that it should be his first look. It's not his second look either, it seems. So that's where I'd be a little bit hesitant. I do like Matt Breida as well. But yeah, I love Jerick McKinnon. And I think he could easily get, about 12 touchdowns, maybe 9 on the ground, and another 3 in the air. He could probably, get close to 1,000 yards. I think that he won't, just because they use Breida a lot, and Breida is the better rusher. So I'm hoping that they use him. Everybody wants to see this tandem, the whole, New Orleans, Saints. Everybody would like to see that. Or, very much like Freeman and Tevin Coleman. I think that can be possible as well. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see it as well. I really love Jerick McKinnon. He's still, I feel like, people aren't. I feel like he kind of is being slept on a little bit.
See, I feel the opposite. I feel like his hype train is out of control.
Really?
I think it's necessary. I think the things people are forgetting about is that Garoppolo only played like 4 games last season. And so when they're looking at this small sample size, I mean, he's just now had his first summer with Kyle Shanahan, who loves to dump that ball to the running back. So, I mean, it's inevitable to me that getting a guy like McKinnon in there will fit right into this offense. And it's funny because I have him as my running back 11 also. I mean, that's why I chuckled when Who said that. I'm like, same exact spot I've got him. And for that reason, I mean, to me, I have a lot of faith that he's going to get a lot of passes. I know Gore didn't towards the end of the year, but again, I mean, you've got this guy who just comes into a system and just doesn't know how Kyle Shanahan does things. Now he will, and that's going to make all the difference in the world for Jerick McKinnon, in my opinion.
You mean Hyde didn't get catches at the end of the season?
Yeah, sorry. I always
Gore hasn't been on the 49ers.
Yeah, I always go back to Gore on the 49ers. Him and Delaney Walker were hanging out.
Back in the day. Long time ago. Yeah, I've got McKinnon at 15, and I think that's fairly appropriate. I mean, are you going to take him over Christian McCaffrey? Devonta Freeman? Jordan Howard?
Yes.
Wow.
I am.
See, yeah. I think that's bold.
Not over Jordan Howard.
I feel like his hype train is just up there. People are talking about him like, I'm not necessarily seeing other analysts doing this, but talking about how they're drafting him as a top 10 running back. And I just think people need to temper their expectations. Yes, they gave him a 4-year deal. Yes, they paid him. Yes, they've said that he can be a 3-down back. They didn't say he was going to. They just said he can. I'm not sure if someone who's 5'9", 216 pounds is really going to be the 3-down back, especially with, he only got 150 carries last year. He's supposedly the guy. He's going to get the first and second down work most likely. But I just think people have to temper their expectations a little bit. Don't draft him like he's going to be top 10. I don't feel like he's going to be there. Now, when it comes to his stat line, I do think he'll get more than 150 rushing attempts. And Hoos and Mike, I guess we've talked about this on the show, that stat projections are bullshit, right? Mostly.
Right.
But let's play a little over-under, though. So over-under 150 rushing attempts.
Over.
Oh, definitely over.
570 rushing yards.
Over.
51 receptions.
I'm going to say
I'm going
to go over, but it's not going to be by much. Like I'm saying, like 60.
60? Well, that's
a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. What about you, Hoos? Over under 51 catches.
I'm going to say under. I'm probably right below that. I could see him getting like 45 or so. But I can't see him getting that much more.
Right. See, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 40 to 60. And it's not like I like him as much as I like the system, right? Like, I like the system that he's going into.
See, and that's why stat projections are bullshit. 40 to 60. Like, but yeah, somewhere between 0 and 100 receptions for Jerick McKinnon this year. Matt Breida is also decent out of the backfield. McKinnon was the only receiving back last year for Minnesota. After Dalvin Cook went down, he was the only guy there who was catching the ball. That's not necessarily going to be the case in San Francisco. If I had to put, I hate putting numbers to it, I would say closer to 40 catches this year. Now, can he get 60? Yeah. For sure. I think he can. Can he be an RB1? Yes, he can. think it's a little premature to put him there right now.
That's just more, like I said, faith-based in the system more than it is the running back himself.
There we go. Let's move on to this next question from OM Jimmy G. How do you rank the Dolphins wide receivers? And I think I'm going to start this one here. Albert Wilson taking over that Landry spot is going to be my number one on the depth chart. I like him out of that spot more than I like Danny Amendola. And this guy I do not like, but I feel like if he's going to break out, he has to do it this year. Devontae Parker as number 2, Stills 3, and Amendola 4, because I don't trust him to play all 16. So I go Wilson, Parker, Stills, Amendola.
Wow. I go Amendola, Wilson, Parker, Stills.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a complete shit show because I'm going Stills.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm going Stills.
There's no surprise there.
Yeah, obviously. I'm going Stills, Wilson, Amendola, Parker. I got to see it from Parker. I know he's supposed to. They're still hyping him up. He just doesn't seem like he cares. I've watched him, and he has potential. He just doesn't seem like he cares, and I just need to see it from him.
What's his current ADP?
Right now,
looking for it.
Good question.
Looking down.
Mine only goes to 200.
So. Like it's good. It's good value. I'm in a lot of leagues.
11th round, the 1102.
Oh, okay.
And that's in a 10-team league, so maybe 10th round.
That's amazing value.
Yeah, it potentially could be. I mean, if you're taking him, I would not take him as a starter, but I'd be okay with Devontae Parker as my wide receiver 4 or 5.
Yeah, the guy's just one touchdown.
I mean, worth a look. I'm not going as far as to say he's not, but
no, he is. He's just that's the thing about it. Receivers, but he has the potential. He just has to want it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jimmy G also says, gun to your head, fantasy football or fantasy baseball. And I'm assuming we're all going to say fantasy football.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah,
if you only keep the gun in your pocket, I'll answer that without even violence.
Yep. If you're only picking one, it's certainly fantasy football. That's why it's not the Sleeper Wire Fantasy Baseball Show.
Mm-hmm. If you look at my fantasy baseball team, you would see why we don't give you fantasy baseball advice.
Yeah, I just beat Mike last week, so.
Yeah.
You made a comeback, though. I was destroying you until, Saturday.
Right. My guys are starting to put the ball over the fence a little bit. I can't believe with the team I've got, I'm not hitting home runs, but that's neither here nor there.
Did we finish? Was it 6-4-2, or was it 5-5-2?
6-4-2.
6-4-2. Oh, it was closer than I thought. But let's get back to the show. Tix Please says, where do you rank Baldwin now that Marshall signed with the Seahawks? And I'm going to kick this one off here. I did not move Baldwin into my rankings at all. I don't think it really affects Baldwin. I think it more just affects Lockett. I have Doug Baldwin as my wide receiver 13, and I think I'm going to leave him there.
I have him as my 11, and same thing. I mean, Brandon Marshall doesn't scare me. His activity on the field just isn't, like I said, it just has not been there for so long that I can't rely on the guy anymore. I just can't even after the 17th, I can't pick that guy up.
Now, what about Brandon Marshall or let's say Chris Hogan?
Oh, Chris Hogan for sure.
Nelson Aguilar. Kelvin Benjamin.
I like Benjamin this year.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Josh
all the
Allen
same.
hucking in the ball.
That was basically rounding out my top 50 for wide receivers, and I don't think Marshall's going to crack my top 50.
Yeah, no way.
I don't think he will either.
Yep. All right. So did he not? Baldwin not move for you either? Who's stayed about the same?
No, yeah, he stayed pretty much the same. I think it helps, if anything, but yeah, he stayed about the same. I love Baldwin this year.
All right, let's move on. Raja20 says, what to do or who to have regarding the Colts backfield. And I'm not excited about any of these guys personally, and I'm saying that as a Colts fan. If I had to choose one guy to have in a vacuum, I think I would still take Marlon Mack. I think he's going to get the most work, and he's got a year of experience in that offense. When it comes to draft value, I might go with either Wilkins or Hines, but if I had to take one, it would be Marlon Mack. And his current ADP, it's not super high. It's in the 7th round, so he's probably being taken as your RB4, 3 or 4, which is, pretty okay, but I'm not excited about any of those guys. Hoos, I think you're a big Wilkins fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I like Wilkins a lot. I think, Marlon Mack is he even healthy right now? I think he's still battling from injuries, so, I mean,
he's good.
I think, is he fine now?
He was fine to begin with, wasn't he? Oh no, he had that
Not
shoulder
from
surgery.
what I heard.
didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
let me amend my statement. If Mac is healthy,
right. I think that doesn't bode well for him. Not being on the field with the rest of the team. And I think that Jordan Wilkins is kind of like a similar style runner. I think he's going to be the thumper. I like Nyheim Hines, but I like Nyheim Hines if luck is there. But I like Jordan Wilkins out of the three. Now, if Marlon Mack is going to fall to me, I'm still going to take him. But I know Jordan Wilkins, I can get him for practically free.
oh yeah, you can probably get him in the 14th round, if not even later than that. But if Marlon Mack,
right.
let me change it. If Marlon Mack is still injured, or if he's not playing the first few games, or if we don't know, just like we didn't with Luck last year, I would take Wilkins over Hines.
I think Robert Turbin is a guy that could just come out of nowhere too and be the guy that starts it out at the very least. I like Wilkins. I think he will be the guy down the road. But if Marlon Mack doesn't start, I think Robert Turbin might actually be a guy you could sleep on, get late, get undrafted, pick him up after you decided you don't like a guy off your draft, and he'll still be available. Yeah, I think he could actually be a sleeper. As gross as that is to say out loud, I think Robert Turbin might actually be a sleeper.
Deep sleep. He might not even be on dynasty teams.
Right. He might be available in your 10-year dynasty league.
And Romaine Justin says, also, same question that we just talked about with the Colts, for the Jets, Packers, and Raiders. So just give me no long explanation or anything, just who do you want? So Jets. I'm taking Crowell over Powell.
I'm taking Powell.
Yeah, I'm taking Crowell as well.
All right. Packers, Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I'm taking Jamal Williams.
I'm still stuck on Ty
Jamal
Montgomery, and I don't know why. Like, I know it's not the right answer, but I feel like Ty Montgomery is going to be the running back again next year.
See, with how well that Williams and Jones did, why wouldn't they just leave them in the backfield and just have Ty Montgomery be kind of like that Tavon Austin or
because
Tyreek Hill
Mike
type
McCarthy does not want a successful running back since Eddie Lacy. Like, that's my only answer to that. I don't know, because I feel like they're better, but I feel like Ty Montgomery is going to be the guy that comes out swinging on that team.
All right, so 2 for Williams, 1 for Montgomery. And let's go to, he also says for the Raiders, there was a report that said that Doug Martin could challenge Marshawn Lynch for that starting job. I'm still going to take Lynch out of the Raiders backfield. I'm not excited about it. I'm not looking forward to having Lynch on my team. But if I had to choose one guy, it's going to be Marshawn Lynch. And you can get him in the 7th round right now.
Yep.
DeAndre Washington, and he's going right to my bench. No, I actually like Lynch better too.
All right, there we go. Oh, we got a couple more questions here. Amazing24 says, who is the absolute sexiest man's man in the NFL?
Oh, I mean, is that a question? I have no idea.
It's Jimmy G.
That
jawline? Come on.
Right. I'm just going to go with that and say right, because they're always wearing helmets.
I
don't know what they look like.
You can also go with Antonio Brown because of that winning smile that he's got.
Well, and the Tetris head, like, yeah.
And that car that he had, was it that Bentley? Whew.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
pretty sick.
I might go with AB, actually.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at the lineman, too, because the cuddle option. Like, cuddling with a lineman, you're probably feeling pretty safe. You're probably sleeping better than you ever have.
Can I take Warren Sapp?
Yes, see? Warren Sapp for the win.
If you're into Bears. Where did we go with this question?
Who's the cutest? Anyways, let's move on. We got one last question that just came in off of SleeperBot this year. Going back to the Colts here, what are your thoughts this year on T.Y. Hilton if Luck does not return?
About 15. I still put him in 15 just because he's still gonna be there with Brissett if he doesn't come back, and it's his second year with Brissett. Brissett seemed to like him. I'd still put him in around 15 or so.
Wow, 15, huh?
Yeah, that's up there, man.
Where did he finish last year?
It couldn't have been good. He had a couple basic games, but that was it.
Now I'm curious.
I'm looking.
I just think the second year now, in this offense, I think with Brissett, he should be able to finish higher. He had some really monster games still with Brissett.
He had like 2.
Yeah. That was
all right.
it.
So he was 27. He finished 27. He still had nearly 1,000 yards. He had 996 yards, 57 receptions. He had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I saw people talking about this on Facebook page, and it was just, there's a question basically exactly like this, and a lot of the comments were, I'm not drafting him at all. I wouldn't even take him in the 15th round, or I'm not taking him before the 10th, or blah, blah, blah. I would still take T.Y. Hilton as my wide receiver 3. I'd take him in the 5th or 6th round.
I'm not going to say, I'd almost say even 2. Like, I'd almost take him a little earlier, just the talent level. You cannot ignore the talent level that guy brings to the table.
Right, shut up.
He will. Like, I'm with Hoos. I think he kind of convinced me right there. Like, with another year with Jacoby on that, I think that might be dangerous.
Yeah, I've got T.Y. Hilton as my wide receiver 14 now, and that's hoping that Luck comes back or, maybe only misses a game or 2. I'm not even going to speculate about Luck's health at this point like I did last year. It's just going to be completely worthless. Right. I haven't done rankings based on Luck not being there, but I would still take him in the 5th round, I think. He's still finished as a wide receiver 3.
I have him 18 until I see Andrew Luck throw.
Yeah. I like it.
And then he might move back. He might move up a little bit if Andrew Luck starts coming back.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely moving.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Sleeper Wire Show. As we mentioned at the beginning, and as you great listeners know, Sleeper Wire is a charity. We are dedicated to making a difference in people's lives. That's the whole reason we do this show, and the whole reason we do the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am. To enter for a chance to play in the Pro-Am, it is easy. Now, this is a fantasy football league where it's not just you guys can play with us, but you can play with pros in the industry like Jake Seeley, Justin Boone. We got, USA Today is going to have a team. The Fantasy Football Fellas, Sleeperbot. A lot of big names in the fantasy football industry are going to be a part of this, and you have a chance to play with these pros as well. Go to GoFundMe.com/RobJR and donate. It's that simple. Every multiple of $10 is going to get you a raffle ticket for the Pro-Am, so donate $10 and it's 1 ticket. $30 and you get 3 tickets, going to triple your chances. And you can also go to www.sleeperwire.com/Pro-Am for more details. You can also follow us on Twitter at SleeperWire Show. You can find us on there at Seymour Sleeperwire, at SleeperWire Hoos, and at Dr. Kane21. That's Dirty Jobs. You can find us on Sleeperbot at Professor Chris, Prophet Hoos, and Dirty Jobs, and on Fantasy Life app at Professor Chris, Hoos the Prophet, and once again, Dirty Jobs.
Dirty Jobs.
Well, Hoos, Mike, this was, it was awesome to be on a show with you guys again. It's been like a couple months since the 3 of us have been on a show together.
Right, too long. Too long. We should just do a show, even if nobody gets to hear it, just so we can talk to each other.
I like it.
I'll be here same time next week.
I like it. Same here. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.